And we are live about 39 minutes late. So anybody who's jumping on right now, this is completely unlike the HODL report for showing up late. We'll see who we get on. We might just have this as an open dialogue for today. Yo, what's up? Took me about 15 minutes to get OBS to open up and start working. I figured I'd be a little bit late tonight, but didn't anticipate a 40-minute delay. So I told the group that I had to be back before 10. They said no problem, and ended up getting back a little bit after the time expected, and then spent a little time trying to get OBS going. So we'll see if we can get anybody jumping in. Not 100% sure if we can pull that off, so we'll see what we got going on. What's up, Alex? Lunch break, another 20 minutes. That's awesome. All the way from Australia. We got some good messages going on earlier in the day for us. I guess that was night for you. So we were talking a little bit about the housing crisis over in Australia, and what that could really mean. And really, Australia overall, I think Australia is one of the only countries that hasn't had and didn't really suffer the full extent of the economic recession or economic crisis. And so it's interesting to really identify whether or not Australia is going to pull it off again, as we move forward. So every country, I guess, will have their time, and we'll see exactly what happens here. So I'm showing that my stream is offline on YouTube. Is that I see everybody chatting, but I'm not seeing an active live stream, so I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm frozen. Let me look and see if my camera froze. I've got an ad getting ready to pop up here. Maybe there's a bit of a delay. Now let me look here. I don't know. Looks live. Am I still frozen? Let me just So what's up, Crypto Sifu? Carl Lewis, apologize to everybody for showing up a little bit late. I had to go out and entertain some friends from out of the country, and so anyhow, was anticipating getting back a little bit earlier. I probably should just called the stream off altogether and just kept everybody out later. But I said, you know what? We got to make it back so we can complete the stream tonight. So then, obviously, the conversation moved into, and I was actually a little bit surprised. So one of the people, I am live. Yes, I am. That's awesome. I am live. Can you believe that, man? I'm responding to someone sending me text messages that told me that I'm live. I'm live all the way, coming to you from the swamp over here. So anyhow, WB Chinese Bamboo, what's up? This is definitely our time to believe. And if you guys haven't watched a video on Chinese Bamboo, I highly recommend go onto YouTube and look up Chinese Bamboo. Check that out, because once you watch the video on Chinese Bamboo, it's kind of life altering, and you realize that if you want to put another terminology to that Chinese Bamboo, then call it XRP hodler, because you'll get the exact same concept. So the old had to entertain people from out of the country. Excuse again. Oh man, come on, I have to use that excuse every so often. Every couple of weeks I use that excuse. So am I frozen? What is that? Oh, you don't get frozen Jeff? Come on, frozen Jeff. That would be awesome, right? So anyhow, all right. So part of the conversation tonight, interestingly enough, developed into digital assets. So one of the people that was out tonight actually invested in digital assets, and I had no idea. Invested in digital assets towards the end of 17 into 2018, and then followed the digital asset space as it went up, as it went down, and then bailed on digital assets out of fear when Bitcoin hit around 3,800. I'm like, oh, come on, I can't believe you bailed out of it and cut losses. And, trying to get into this space, it really highlights to me one of the primary reasons why we can't get into a speculative investment and attempt to day trade. So I think that's definitely Frozen Jeff is a TV dinner. If you haven't found it, you can go to the grocery store, whatever local grocery store is anywhere near you. You can look it up. Go to the frozen section, TV dinner section, and you'll find Frozen Jeff. So anyhow, I see a little bit of a delay here. So we'll probably have a really small group tonight because I showed up late, and anyhow, so this is kind of awesome. I was putting together a lot of ideas. Oh, the Chinese bamboo link, WB put up the Chinese bamboo link up there. So if you want to check it out, definitely watch it. I think it's definite watch. So buy high and sell low is not a good plan. But you know what? That's the plan that the majority of the financial institutions want you to buy on. They want you to buy high and they want you to sell low. And that's how they get the bag holders that are holding at those heights. And that's how they make their profits. So let's all remember that. So anyhow, all right. This is going to be, let's see, we got some good people coming in. I'm getting some text messages, getting some, people, bouncing into the chat, in and out. So anyhow, again, apologize for starting late tonight. Won't happen again. And anyhow, let's get into this. I think there's a lot of great things to talk about. I definitely want to go over some of these things. And as I was going through this, I said, what would be a really interesting topic to dig back through? And so one of the ideas, as I was putting this all together, was really to look at, and I was looking at an old article. This old article, and I think I might cover this article on the next stream, and we're going to focus on one article in particular. But the article that I had really identified was from 2018. It was June 6th of 2018. So being that today's June 5th of 2019, I think I'm going to wait and go through this on another day. But it was an article that highlighted the 10 largest companies looking to get into Bitcoin, into blockchain, as of June 6th of 2018. And so as I was going through that, I thought it was really interesting. I highlighted the top 10. There's actually a list that they had put together, maybe like 44, 45, 50. I didn't go through the entire list. Companies, large companies worldwide that a year ago had plans, had patents, had a lot of different things that were in the public sphere when it comes to digital asset and blockchain technology. Hang on a second. So that's interesting. The chat on my phone is way delayed from the chat on the computer. All right, that makes no sense, Google app. So let's try to change that up. There we go. Had to shut it down, open it up again. All right, cool. So I think this is really interesting. I think this is important for a small group of us to really dig into. And the reason why I think it's important for a small group of us to dig into is because those of us who are on right now can understand the path that these banks are going down in terms of developing their technology, moving into the blockchain space, moving into the digital asset space. And this goes through whether it's FUD or FOMO. And I think that this is really all telling. So as I was digging through this list of top 10, and I was trying to really identify where these organizations were as of June 6, 2010, and where the organizations are as of June 5th, 2019. So I'm going through this, and I stumble across another article that was from actually January 6th of this year. And as I stumbled across this article, I said, you know what? This is a topic that we have to discuss. And one of the reasons why we have to discuss this article is because as we see countries around the world that are establishing precedent for digital assets, for digital asset exchanges, for the cryptocurrency space in general, this article really highlighted, some really important aspects of what's happening. So the title of this article is China Trade and Finance Interbank Trading Blockchain Platform Officially Launches. Now, why is this so important? So this is back in January. This is a consortium in China. So now if we think and try to really identify where we're at this point, Stephen Chip, man, what's up with that? Look at that, 1589 XRP. Man, that's awesome. Appreciate that, man. So anyhow, so here's a consortium of banks getting together in China. Now, again, why do I want to kind of hyper focus on China right now? Because we have a lot of issues going on in China, and we have a lot of rumor that had come out of China regarding banning or blocking digital asset exchanges and the mining thereof of digital asset. And we look at China overall as maybe not so friendly to digital assets as we see the development in countries like India. So with all of this FUD, with all of these things going on, hey, Spanish Fly, what's happening? Miyagi, Richter, what's up? Good to see you on. Good, really great to see everybody on. So we got Geo XRP, and I know I've got Jim is hanging in there. I got a text message from him, so I know that he's in the background there. I got Larry on. I've got a lot of good people on that many times are just hanging in the background. Every so often I get messages pop through. Clara, again, yes, good to see everybody on. So anyhow, and we're getting more and more people that are filtering into the stream. Spanish Fly, we're getting smarter by the day. Well, I'll tell you, based on the conversation I had earlier before I came out here, and I think one of the reasons why I was late is because we got into an entire conversation on digital asset, and then we started getting into with one of the people that we're out with tonight was asking what they should invest in after they sold out of most of their holdings, and I said, well, XRP. And we started talking about Bitcoin. We started talking about the platform and the purpose and utility phase that digital assets are going into now. And there was the counter argument that was saying, well, banks aren't getting into it. Banks don't want to get into it. The Fed, the central banks don't want it. And I said it's actually the opposite, very contrary to, and here's why. And then we went down an entire path of discussion, discussing international economics, et cetera, et cetera. So, but anyhow, so this is really all telling. So, oh man, you just watched the Chinese bamboo. Yeah, that's it. Chinese bamboo, you got to hang in there. Perseverance pays off in whatever you do. Long-term focus, long-term investment. And you know what? The banks 100% are in this for the long-term hold. And the reason why they're in this for the long-term hold, and the reason why we know that a lot of these banks are in it for the long-term hold, is because we don't have to do much. We can do a little bit of historical research. We can do a little Google, and we can find out where these guys were not that long ago while they were spreading the FUD and telling everybody how bad and evil digital asset and blockchain was. They were preparing themselves for the inevitable. So Chip, man, what's up? Another 589 from Chip. Appreciate that, and just wait till tomorrow. So, all right. So this was a press release from the China Banking Association. Now, again, this goes back to January of 2019. What we're going to do is go through this, and then we're going to take a step back to 2018, and we're really going to identify, why we see the banks, diving into the space more aggressively now than ever before. So here we have the China Banking Association. They announced the launch of the long-anticipated China Trade and Finance Interbank Trading Blockchain Platform. Oh man, I'm running out of this, and now the only bottle I have in front of me is the large water bottle. So hang on a minute. I gotta pull out the large water bottle. I know it got really dry in here all of a sudden. Hang on a second. Hang on. There we go. All right. So let's repeat this. Let's go through this again. We've got the China Trade and Finance Interbank Trading Blockchain Platform. All right. Finance Interbank Trading Blockchain Platform. Let's underscore, that was a coconut. That's the Vita Coco coconut water. Man, you gotta love this stuff. I love this stuff. The original. So if we underscore and highlight again the China Trade and Finance Interbank Trading Blockchain Platform, the reason why this kills me is because of the information that we see coming out on China being a little bit aggressive or antagonistic to the blockchain space, to the digital asset space. But here they are developing. There's an association developing this. Now, the project officially kicked off at the end of December. Now, so. All right. So if we look at the launch of this back end of December, think about all of the FUD that's coming out of China from the end of December through the end of May. So obviously we see a lot of momentum in the negative coming out of there. But here's the perspective and the goal of this platform is to improve the transaction mode, improve transaction efficiency, and ensure transaction security. Now, I think it's important that we highlight and we remember this exact phraseology. And if you try to relate it back to the exact reasons why Ripple developed Ripplenet, why Ripplenet is coming after Swift with Xcurrent, why Ripple is a trio of solutions with Xcurrent, Xrapid, and Xvia. It's definitely a distinguishing trio of softwares in one platform that no one else has been able to put together. However, Dan, what's up? Man, you're late. I was late. So it's all good. It's all good. I just started streaming maybe about 10 minutes ago. So it took me a little bit to get on. So check this out. So here we are again. The core concept of why they put this association together: improve transaction mode, improve transaction efficiency, and ensure transaction security. Now, if everything was seamless and efficient with the current solution, why would they need to establish an interbank blockchain platform? They wouldn't have to. But what we're seeing here is that we have multiple banks that have really jumped on board to operate on this platform. Now, this is all within China. It's a consortium in China to create interbank trade. Now, is it a direct competitor to, let's say, Ripplenet? In a sense, it could be seen as a competitor. However, you still need to establish trade from China across the pond, in any direction. But here's a list. Here's a list of the banks that are part of the consortium. So we start off with the United Nations Development Bank. What is that? I have no idea. Let's see. Oh, funny, Carl Lewis. All right, so we have the United Nations Development Bank. We have the industrial. So underscore that again, part of this consortium utilizing blockchain technology for interbank trade, the United Nations Development Bank, Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, the Agricultural Bank of China, China Construction Bank, Bank of Communications. We have China Merchants Bank, China CITIC Bank, China Everbright Bank, China Minsheng Bank, Shanghai Pudong Development Bank. We have the China Postal Savings Bank, Ping An Bank, HSBC Bank of China, and then you have additional sponsors of, which include Hang Seng Electronics, Nanjing Runchen Technology, Henjian Financial Tech, Beijing, something I'm not even going to try to read. But anyhow, each and every one of them are participants in this solution. So the reason why I think this is so critical, again, this was in January, coming out of a country where we see a lot of FUD that's stating that blockchain's no good, cryptocurrency is no good, digital assets are no good, and we know that in order for them to create this trading blockchain platform, there has to be a digital currency, there has to be a digital asset somehow linking and facilitating trade between these individual banks. Now, as they open up and they want to start trading internationally, we're definitely going to need a solution that's going to offer them a little bit more. So now, if we look at, this is kind of where, again, as of January, we look and say, okay, here's a consortium developed in China, and again, what I want to look at overall, country by country, are the precedents being set one way or the other. So if you have a country, if you have a central bank, if you have the governments that are speaking out against the digital asset space, while at the same time they're embracing the blockchain and digital asset space, it's kind of they're speaking out of both sides of their mouth. And at the end of the day, it's kind of, from their perspective, it's do as I say, not as I do. But we have to make the decision as to, do we want to follow do as I say, or would we rather follow do as I do? Because if they're moving into the digital asset space, we know that is kind of the growth trend. That's the way we're moving forward. So where this all started, and this is really where it gets interesting, there was a Forbes article that I was reading, and this dated back June 6th of 2018, and it was covering the top 10 it would be the top 10 largest companies that were at that time pursuing blockchain technology. So the title of it is the 10 largest companies in the world are now exploring blockchain. So this was it actually appeared in Forbes. It was written by Michael Del Castillo, and so it was a really interesting article. But it really highlights 10 interesting companies. And so what I did was I broke it down. I said, okay, let's extract out these 10 companies. Let's look at each one of these 10 companies, and then from that, really try to again assess an opinion as to what direction are banks moving in as we fast forward into June 5th of 2019. So before we get into that, let me turn back to the chat. We've got just over 30 people on. I know it's a little bit late for people. So anyhow, what do we got going on here? So Eric Kistler. So we have all these banks making internal currencies that no other bank would trust or want to use. Essentially, that's kind of what we're starting to see. So they are, as Crypto Sifu said, creating walled gardens. At the end of the day, they're going to need bridges. So all of the banks are, they're looking at, and if you think about, where Ripple is with Ripplenet, creating an amazing solution to facilitate cross-border payments, to facilitate liquidity, to facilitate interoperability, like we talked about on the last stream. There's a lot that's happening, that can happen, that will happen, and banks and we saw it with JP Morgan, and we'll get into that here in a little bit, but they assume that they can do it on their own. They assume that since they're watching others do it, then within a short period of time that they can take advantage and they could move forward and do it as good or not better than those who have spent now the past 7-8 years developing in this space and moving and working to provide a universal solution that operates between all banks. Now, if we look at the individual banks, just like just as you're saying, just as Crypto Sifu is mentioning, they're basically creating walled gardens. They're creating an environment where they are not going to be able to transact with the other banks. And you have to really look at it and say, what solution did they really solve? And it was interesting because that was another point that came up before I even started delving into the banks. I was looking at, and let me see if I can even find this. I probably buried this somewhere. Let me see. As I started thinking about banks, I buried it all together. So I had a whole topics. I guess we'll have to save that. But I was looking at a company that was creating a solution to a supposed problem that isn't really a problem that really needs solving by blockchain technology. Whereas in the banking space, we definitely have an issue. We have a problem that needs solving. And the fact that Ripple was solving it has now opened it up and is really highlighting the fact that there's a problem and there is a solution, and all of these other banks and bank consortiums and banking conglomerates are looking and say, well, hey, you know what? If Ripple can do it, we can do it. What makes them so unique? Well, what makes them so unique is that they have stellar individuals that are working on their team that have now spent years upon years in developing an amazing platform that is enabling a decentralized mechanism to allow banks to trade with one another and to do so without the worry of third-party manipulation, where at the same time it's happening virtually without cost and immediate. So if you look at these XRP tip bots that are coming through, and I just got one from Spanish Fly, thank you very much. They come through almost instantaneously, and that's using the XRP tip bot. You want to send a currency, and it goes through the XRP ledger, and it happens instantaneously. You send $1 million from one site to another, it happens almost instantaneously, and the cost of transaction is measured in cents. And so it's an amazing concept. So all these other banking conglomerates said, well, we can do it. We can do it transparently. Not that they want to. We can do it cheaply. We can do it efficiently. Going back to again that concept of what was raised, but that it's not really that's not really clear, and that's not really the fact that they're able to do it. But the statement rings true regardless. So again, this was the purpose of the consortium in China. Again, their platform, their China Trade and Finance Interbank Trading blockchain platform, was specifically geared towards that. Now, if we look at the top 10 largest companies that were also looking into blockchain and to assimilate blockchain as part of their solution, they all have the exact same reasons. So as I look through this Forbes article, number one on the list was another Chinese bank, and it's the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, ICBC. That was number one on the list of largest companies in the world that wanted to adopt digital asset. Now, just like JP Morgan, just like Berkshire Hathaway, and many, many others, they were bad-mouthing digital asset prior to getting into it. So here we have let's see. So here we have June 6th. After previously, so this is June 6, 2018, just a snippet from the article. After previously denying claims that the government-owned bank was working with the Tsaro blockchain-powered stock exchange property office, ICBC described an idea for using blockchain technology to verify digital certificates using a blockchain instead of trusted central authority. Now, as we fast forward with this organization, we go to June of 2019, and in fact, ICBC has launched a fintech subsidiary in, let's see if I can pronounce this, Xiong'an new area alongside blockchain-driven resettlement platform. So let's open this up. Let's see what they're showcasing. Let's see if it opens. All right, come on, it's churning. I don't know why everything's churning here. Here we go. So China shows traction with blockchain. No, that's not what I wanted to look at. Okay, here is the China Construction Bank. Is that what I was just talking about? Let me see. Was I just talking about the China Construction Bank? No, that's number 2 on the list. So how come this one, where did this one go? Hang on, here it is. ICBC. All right, so we have ICBC, which again, this appeared, what's the date? May 9th of this year. China Banking News, that's the website. China Banking News. ICBC launches fintech subsidiary in Xiong'an new area alongside blockchain-driven resettlement platform. So the fintech subsidiary of China's biggest bank in terms of assets has just commenced operation in that area. And so here we have they registered capital of 600 million yuan with its main business orientation, including the use of fintech as a medium, focus on industrial clients, government services, and other financial scenario. You know, so I think it's really interesting because they're developing the fintech alongside what they're doing with blockchain for settlement purposes. So here we are again, a China bank in 2018 bad-mouthing the space. 2018 they begin researching the space. 2019 they're in the space. So I think that's kind of an important identifier. All right, let me just really look over here. Hang on a second. All right, let's see. Let me go back through some of the chat here. All right, hang on. Crypto Sifu. Eric, look at it like the old tiger trying to prove can still roar, right? The legacy you're talking about, the Crypto Sifu. Ripple itself is decentralized in the banking sector. Ben Sedano, what's up? We've got Eric Kistler here. The only reason you keep it, where'd it go? Keep it in-house and spend all that money is if you plan to skim the profits. All right, so let's keep going down here. Let's see what we got here. There we go. XRP Minute. The banks that get it will adopt Ripple Tech. The banks like JP Morgan and the others who think they're creating their own so-called coins will be left behind with their pathetic, still little dopey coin. All right, Spanish Fly. I love the browser, the Brave browser. You can see the coil micropayments paying out. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Yeah, that's really nice. They can be cannibalized. Okay, what is that? They will be cannibalized, to quote Ms. Lagarde from the IMF. JP Morgan's. Okay. All right, so let's move on. All right. China Construction Bank Corporation, CCB. Now, again, we go back 2017, 2018. CCB was actually revealing at that time that they were using the IBM blockchain platform to streamline the way banks and insurance companies jointly sell some of their products. So we look at that year, we could say, you know what, they fell off. They didn't do anything, whatever. 2019, June, China Construction Bank released its 2018 annual report. This was on CoinClog. And it says here, the bank says that it led a blockchain trade finance network that by the end of 2018 had already transacted 200 billion yuan or $30 billion nearly 40 domestic and financial institutions participated, and it entered into cooperation agreements with 20 peers. So here they are just looking at it. And again, this is in China. China that was trying to ban mining and digital asset for the mainstream, making it more and more difficult, similar to what India did. But in this scenario, we still see that China is, banks in China are getting involved in this space. Now, the number 3 on the chart, before we get into number 3 on the chart, let me just look at something real quick. Hang on a second. Here we go. All right. Whoa. Okay. Things are just flying through here. My chat was stuck and it just started flowing. So anyhow, okay. So number 3 on the chart is JP Morgan. Now, we all know JP Morgan. Again, this goes back to 2018. JP Morgan, in spite of company CEO Jamie Dimon's vociferous railing, again, this is from the Forbes article, of vociferous railing against Bitcoin itself, his company has emerged as one of the most visible and committed enterprises to the underlying blockchain technology. After first contributing its own internally developed blockchain platform, Quorum, to the open source community, JP Morgan has seen interest among users, including pharmaceutical giant Pfizer. And there was actually some other topics before I got into the banking topics. One of them I wanted to talk about was what Pfizer is actually doing in the blockchain space, along with Walmart, which I guess we'll talk about on the next stream. So obviously we know what JP Morgan did this year with the launch of JPM. So number 4 on the list, if you guys can think about one of the other most outspoken critics of digital asset, which is from Berkshire Hathaway, that's now going to be having lunch with the founder of Tron, after he apparently donated $4-point-something million to a charity fundraiser. So anyhow, Berkshire Hathaway. Now again, this goes back to similar to Dimon's vocal doubt of Bitcoin. Berkshire Hathaway, this is a quote from the article. Berkshire Hathaway's founder and CEO Warren Buffett is an outspoken cryptocurrency skeptic, comparing Bitcoin to rat poison, and chiding those who consider purchasing it a form of legitimate investment. But that hasn't kept the company from exploring cryptocurrency's underlying blockchain tech as a way to trace the provenance of diamonds and even freight delivered on Buffett's railroads. So if we go through all of the Jimmy Buffett, all of the Warren Buffett holdings, all of the Berkshire Hathaway holdings, are we going to find companies within his holdings, freight companies? Are we going to find precious metal mining companies, or precious stones? Are we going to find that in some way, shape, or form they are participating in a blockchain cryptocurrency based solution? So we know that freight is really, freight and logistics is the next large utility point outside of banking and financial institutions, and really the next large space that blockchain and digital asset is really taking over. So before we move into the next 5 through 10, let me just take a quick look at the chat. I just saw Jim Hall here with a comment, and let's see what else we got. There we go. All right. Jim Hall. If XRP Minute said as well said, we got to read it. XRP Minute. Any bank that tries to make their own stablecoin is just making a desperate attempt to hold on to an old system where they have the power. Centralized power, we should emphasize. All right, let's go to number 5 on the list. Number 5 on the list is Agriculture Bank of China Limited. Now, this is a state-owned bank. 2018, per the Forbes article, revealed it was working on a decentralized network to offer unsecured agricultural loans to e-commerce merchants. Unfortunately, didn't really find a lot of information about it as I move forward. So let's skip on to the next one. Then there were a few others. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Bank of China. Each one of them in 2018 were undertaking their own blockchain projects to streamline a diverse set of financial workflows. Haven't heard a lot yet from them. We do see some participation with Bank of America in other areas, but we haven't seen anything on their own. Then the other that came out was Apple. So 2018, Apple was looking at blockchain technology, and lo and behold, where's the article that I posted up here? Apple, as of just a couple days ago, looks like they're gearing up to launch a series of apps. And with that, what they did was Apple launched what is called Crypto Kit. It's a cryptography oriented toolkit for Apple developers. While the iPhone maker avoids mentioning the magical words blockchain and cryptocurrency, it sure sounds like the new tool might have something to do with it. That was a quote from the nextweb.com with a little bit of a quote or a little bit of an article on Apple launching this crypto kit. And it says here, crypto kit will be made available in the upcoming iOS 13 update, as spotted by the block. The dev kit will officially be announced in WWDC session called Cryptography and Your Apps. So interesting that Apple is starting to dive into this space as well. So is this the space that people are saying that there's no utility, that's going away, that there's no development, that it's just a fluke, that it's just a bunch of scammers? Just very, very unlikely. Now, number 10 on this list is China-based Ping An Insurance. Now, the firm joined Distributor Ledger Consortium R3 back in 2016. So we're talking about 3 years ago, this organization joined R3 and has reportedly been helping China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology research the technology. So if we want to sit back and think that that the governments, that the financial institutions, that the banks, that the central banks, that although many of them are very adamant to speak out against this space, while at the same time they're aggressively researching how and when or what their entry point is going to be into the digital asset space. Just interesting. Now, from the article, they listed a series of other organizations that in 2018, June of 2, so a year ago, were also researching the space: Microsoft, Alphabet or Google, Walmart. And so those are three, top-end organizations that we all know the name to. Then we have German auto manufacturer Daimler. We have Japanese auto manufacturer Mitsubishi, and we have a bank in Russia called Sberbank. So I think it's really, really all telling when you see a list like this, and the list, like I said, was about 50 companies long. This was the top 10 in that list. Before we went through that, we looked at a list of banks within a consortium over in China that are developing blockchain technology for interbank transaction for the exact purpose of many of the things that we're talking about. So it's just really, really interesting that this is the direction that we're moving into. So, with all of this being said, did any of them say specifically which digital asset they're working with? Not necessarily. However, when we look at the backing of those organizations that are using which digital asset, that's where it gets really interesting. So we see all the banks, like we talked, was brought up earlier, putting up the walls. They still need bridge currencies. Banks still need to transact with each other. Essentially, they're putting themselves into silos, whether it's one bank or 100 banks or 1,000 banks. They're siloed. We know that Swift has 10,000 customers. We know that Ripple through Ripplenet has well over 200 customers, and they're onboarding on a weekly basis. So that number can swell and grow at an exponential rate. We know that JP Morgan with JPM coin and some of the things that they're doing, they have their group. We see this China consortium. The thing is, again, all of these entities at the end of the day are going to have to communicate. There's going to have to be a form of interoperability between these organizations, as well as other financial institutions, as well as other corporations worldwide. And we're seeing a complete adoption of a digital asset, of the blockchain technology, and it's expanding at a faster and faster pace. And we're going to cover even more in depth about some of these different focal points on the next live stream. Today was just really about all of this. So let me see what kind of comments we have popped up here. We have Jeff Rome. The news Justin Sun has that lunch with Buffett actually made the company I work for, which is a global internal IT newsletter. I was shocked to see it published. It actually made the newsletter. That's kind of crazy. Let's see, XRP. JP Morgan is a banking powerhouse, but they'll lose in the cross-border remittance area. No one outside the JP Morgan infrastructure will use JPM, and that's really a fact. If they're within the JP Morgan family, they'll use it. Forget about it. On the outside, it's not even going to be possible. Let's see, JP Morgan coin is just a test coin for the real deal. So they're ready when it goes. That's Carl Lewis. That's really interesting. So Apple is getting into it. There's a lot of swell at all these different layers and levels to begin the facilitation of mainstream adoption. So many have said this. The CEO of Coinbase said this, that we're entering into a utility phase. And the utility phase, before we kind of had the recognition phase, the identifier phase, the rollout phase, we started to see all this talk about it a year ago. Banks were investigating it. A year forward, we have bank after bank after bank, organization after organization that are fully engaged in blockchain, fully engaged in digital asset. That fact on its own means that we're entering now into a full utility period. Where we end up at the end of this year is going to be interesting, and that's kind of the unknown. How fast this space is going to expand, how fast this space is going to grow, which companies are still going to be around a year from now, which companies are going to come out on top, which companies are going to be absorbed into other companies. So, and this goes to other conversations that we had, which one's going to go first, the bank or the exchange, because as these cryptocurrency or digital asset exchanges become absorbing more and more of the banking, the traditional banking type functionality, that's where we begin to see the irrelevancy of the brick and mortar banks. Now, brick and mortar banks aren't going to go away anytime soon, so we'll see in this space that direct competition where banks are identifying we don't need the branches, we don't need the brick and mortar. Let's start getting rid of that. Let's start minimizing. However, mortgages, car loans, business loans, home repair loans, whatever it might be, you still need some sort of personal relationship, stock investing advice. There's still an entire layer within society that isn't going to do that digitally or remotely, and they need an individual. Safety deposit box. You can't put a safety deposit box in a digital exchange when you have physical good that you want something protected. So there are a lot of different layers where we still need the brick and mortar banks. We just don't need them as much. We don't need as much personnel. They're going to be able to streamline. They're going to become more efficient. They're not going to have the same cost and expenses. They're going to have to compete at a different level. And you know, I think we're going to see a really seismic shift within that space. We've already seen it in the investment space where a Fidelity, an E-Trade, I'm just trying to think of some of the traditional you know, places where you would go for investing, where you'd have to sit down with a financial advisor outside of the bank. But anyhow, you know, we see the expense and the cost of having a broker is marginalized at this point. You have Robinhood, where you can pay $5-6 a month, and you have access to margin accounts. You have access to research data. You have access to free trades in the stock market. So it's really amazing. You go on Robinhood as an app, Robinhood online. How does an E-Trade or a Fidelity or any of the others that are still charging, you know, $5, $10, $15, $19.99, you know, I haven't even been on them. What are they going to do when they're charging those kinds of money, those kinds of trade fees in and out, when a Robinhood is doing it for free? So we're seeing that seismic shift. We're seeing the fintech banking. We're going to see the digital asset, the blockchain banking. We're starting to see a complete, you know, really merging of the lines, blurring of the lines between all of this. So I think it's pretty amazing. So, Johnny Cab on Total Recall. That'll be great. That's kind of how it will probably be. You know, I mean, it's really amazing. Yo, Rain, what's up? What's up? Glad you're on. Let me just go through this. And let's see here. You know, when the Bill Goats Gruff were stopped on the bridge by the troll, if they had a bridge currency, would he have let them through? What? Wait a minute. Okay, they're stopped by the troll. Oh, if they had a bridge currency, I get it. I got it now. All right. Okay, let's see, a little off topic. This is interesting. And this is off topic, Jeff Rome. Did you see that news article about Ford and GM possible merger? I did not. I'm going to have to see that. Would that be crazy? Probably not necessarily crazy. If they had larger competitive forces, could they merge? It would be an interesting shift. Would they let them merge? I don't know. I mean, their financials are definitely different in terms of what Ford did with their union negotiations versus what GM did. GM obviously renegotiated a lot after the government takeover and the subsequent dissolving of their shares of their previous corporation and dissolving their original GM shares to zero, to worthless, as they rolled out all brand new GM shares. Could there be a merger? I mean, anything's possible, but I think the dynamics between those two auto companies would make it difficult. And you would have to look at, would there be, full reasoning as to why the two entities should merge. Government motors expansion. So we got to stay away from government involvement. And if you go back to when the government took over GM, what a disaster. If you look at it, have the GM vehicles improved, over the past number of years? Obviously, GM vehicles are doing, pretty amazingly. Ford, on the other hand, has really destroyed their entire car line. They're going crossover and truck only. General Motors as a car company, and really any of the car companies, their designs are organized previously, like 5 years prior to launch of the vehicle, so they have the vehicle designs and all of that. But I don't even know where I'm going with this. But anyhow, I'm looking at government motors expansion. So the government takeover of General Motors was really devastating because they killed off some of the product line. Oh man, Crypto Seafood, thanks for that. I'll definitely run out tomorrow and get another coconut water on you. Appreciate that. That would be awesome. So let's see here. So yeah, so I mean, we could really keep going down and talk a lot about the whole dynamic of what went on in the automotive industry, the government, and this was really just a hard-on for Obama, killing off the Hummer division. And the Hummer division at the time of the kill-off, even through the financial disaster, was still putting up numbers. And was still a profitable entity. And the only reason why they killed it off was to appease the tree huggers that didn't like the fact of what the Hummer brand represented for American strength and having those on the street. So that was really unfortunate. Then they killed off Pontiac. They killed off Saturn. They tried to streamline Saturn. Really was a kind of a no-go company to begin with. That was their attempt at Europeanizing their vehicles. And, so it was kind of a disaster. So, overall, they killed off Pontiac. And Pontiac was actually a relatively successful brand, but I think it was kind of dwindling down into irrelevancy as they did with Oldsmobile. They killed that off, and that kill off had nothing to do with finances other than it came down to an argument between two CEO or two presidents or divisions or whatever. It was kind of a bizarre incident from what I heard from people that were kind of involved that shouldn't have happened. So kind of crazy. Anyhow, enough on the automotive. Dom Chamby, in your opinion, when do you see the next recession happening, and what could be the catalyst? Man, that's a great question. Recession, I'm not one to predict recessions. I do see that people are overextended across the board. I think there's turmoil that's developing in different parts of the world. I do see, the Federal Reserve that's decreasing interest rates because they potentially choke the economy with a sudden jump up of interest rates. I think that we're in a period where we saw, overall a rise in the economy for a longer period of time, where there needs to be a slight pullback. And there's a lot of different things that could really be a catalyst to pulling into another global recession, repeat of errors in the past, large deficits. There's a lot of catalysts out there that could really be a causation. If we look at in the United States, as an overall, the job market is relatively strong. There's a lot of job openings and not necessarily enough people to fill a lot of the jobs that are out there, but there's so many dynamics. So that could be a whole topic, and really you can't just talk about it on the surface. So we have entered the twilight zone. What is that? Do. John Doe is in the house. Let me see here. What time is it? Oh, God. Okay. Let's start going through this. Would have sucked to lose GM, and Ford has the Mustang. That's right, Rain. The Mustang is still out there. They didn't kill off the Mustang. The Mustang is still out there. So not one of the cars they're killing off. Sorry, but I'll never buy GM or Ford. Quote, man, I disagree, John. The General Motors quality has improved dramatically over the years. Rain's got a Tahoe. I actually have I drive a Yukon, and I'll tell you what, the Yukon is by far, one of my favorite trucks. I love the Yukon. I don't drive a GM vehicle. I've rented multiple GM vehicles. However, if you get into it, depending on where you're buying, what category you're buying in, Ford, I was just with some friends, and they had a brand new Ford Expedition. And I'll tell you what, that Ford Expedition, the engine was strong, the interior was designed nicely, everything about it was great. I had an opportunity to drive the BMW i8 the other day that a friend of mine had. I took that out, and that thing has some crazy ass balls. You know, the engine was ridiculous, super fast, 0 to 60 in 3.8 seconds. That was insane. But there's a lot of amazing cars out there. GM definitely stepped up their game over the years. I'm not here trying to promote GM and Ford in any way, shape, or form. But anyhow, you know, there's definitely, you know, some decent cars out there. The Buick lineup overall is pretty decent. You know, so, you know, I don't know that there's a ton to complain about with that anyhow. Yeah, dude, Rain, that's true, man. Camaro and Mustang now battling it out in NASCAR. Man, that's awesome. You know, that's definitely awesome. Let's see, Wildstar. Ford needed a high-low. Spanish Fly likes the, did you say you like the Chevy pickup? Or, man, Chevrolet's launching the Blazer. So you can have the Chevy Blazer is the new, I don't know if I like it. It's a Chevy crossover. It's not the old Chevy Blazer. The old Blazer, and then they had the GMC Envoy. And then you had the Bravada, the Oldsmobile Bravada. They were all on the same platform. The Tahoe and the Yukon being on the same platform as well. People in America want SUVs. Hell yeah, they want SUVs and trucks. Trade wars will speed up the process. That could definitely be a part of it. However, we also need a leveling of the playing field. You can't have one party levying ridiculous tariffs and manipulating currency while the other party has complete free trade. So you got to have a balance. There definitely has to be a balance across the board here. So crypto is going to be the hedge. Jeff Rome. Let's see here. In a lot of ways, the new Mustang. How do we get into a full car discussion? Jeff Rome, that's right. Man, how we get sit here talking about cars all night. But you know what? I think I'm coming up on a full hour here. I'm winding down. I'm getting tired now. It's almost midnight. I got to wrap it up. Man, I'm glad you guys joined in. We definitely had some good comments here. Appreciate the $5 for my next coconut water crypto seafood. That's awesome. Good to see you on. WB, yeah, we can't forget about oh man, Saab. I saw it first, and I saw the Saab. I was thinking the Saudi Arabian bank and Saab. Yeah, so man, WB. Before I sign off on that one, that's another one, dude. Man, that the Saab though, GM took Saab over, and they ever since GM was involved in Saab, and they owned a percentage of it, they ruined the front end line. They ruined the drivetrain. They ruined the what am I trying to think of? There was always a continuous leak in the power steering when GM first took over Saab. Man, I had multiple Saabs. I'll tell you what though, man, I liked Saab, and GM did kill off Saab, and that was unfortunate. But when General Motors launched the new design, this was back in 2003. They had the new design for the 9.3 and the 9.5. So I got that first new design. Man, I loved it. It was a 4-cylinder turbo. Before that, I had a convertible. Before that one, I had a convertible Saab. But that 9.3, and then I had, after that, the 9.3 turbo. Then I had another 9.3 convertible, which was awesome. And then I had a 9.3 Aero, and I was a 6-speed stick, 6-cylinder, and that thing with a turbo, and that thing definitely had a lot of power. But man, Wildstar, yeah, the 900 series, man, I love the 900 series. Those were the shit. I definitely love those. The 900 series with the turbo, those were a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of fun. So anyhow, enough of the car talk, and just like the worthless cryptos that will be killed off. Jeff Rome. Man, they're killing off all the good stuff got killed off. But I'll tell you, the H2 was I gotta leave off on that. The H2 was really the worst of it, man. That was the saddest thing to see go, because that H2 truck, man, the Hummer, that truck was a beast, and I love that truck. That was awesome. So anyhow, yeah, Rain, that's exactly what Jeff Rum, he started this whole conversation on Car Talk. Man, we should have a crypto car talk. There we go. Chip, what do you think about that? Crypto car talk. There could be a day of the week with crypto car talk. I like that. That'd be a nice one. Oh, so just a lead off on the whole Ford thing. Volvo, Land Rover, Jaguar, we're all owned by Ford. Volvo and Jaguar are now owned by a Chinese company, and Land Rover was bought by Tata Motors over in India. So that's it. Anyhow, all right, that's it. This is Jeff with Crypto Car Talk, and the H2. I don't think it was on the same chassis, but it definitely wasn't. It definitely was not the Tahoe. It was definitely a much beefier platform, at a different engine. Engine was definitely different than the Tahoe or the Yukon, but it was based on the same platform. I believe it used the same chassis as the Yukon and the Tahoe. So, and then the H3 came out, and the H3 was a smaller version, but the H3 actually in off-road vehicle performance was competing against the Land Rover. Which I can't believe. So, did you say car talk? Car talk. Carl talk. I did. Signing off on crypto car talk. So I'm really glad that I prefer whiskey talk. Well, we can talk whiskey and cars. How about that? It could be whiskey, car, cigar night on. Anyhow, crypto car talk. So anyhow, I really appreciate everybody joining on tonight. It's late over here, midday, late morning over on the other side of the ocean somewhere. So John Doe, Jeff knows not only about cryptos but cars too. Now I've just told you everything I know about cars. That's it. Automotive industry. But no, anyhow. So that's what we're gonna sign off on right there, Carl. I think that's great. So don't drink and trade either, or don't drink and stream. So, but anyhow, I appreciate everybody for joining on. If you're on the East Coast, joining on late at night. If you're on the other side of the ocean in Australia and elsewhere, thanks for joining on early morning. If you're from the West Coast, man, you got no excuse, Rain. It's still early out there. And you got the whole evening ahead of you. So where the rest of us here on the East Coast are getting ready to go to bed, man, you can still go out and party it up. You got all sorts of stuff going on. So anyhow, definitely, again, appreciate everybody being on. Big shout out to the Land Rover Discoveries and the BMW X7 for sure. But look forward to seeing everybody on the next stream. Tomorrow night is Thursday. That means that Chip is going to be streaming at 10 o'clock tomorrow. And I'm sure Chip will be on time unless you have people that you got to entertain tomorrow night as well. So Jungle Inc. and you will be doing a whiskey stream soon. That's awesome. So awesome. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. I'm getting ready to end the stream. Appreciate everybody for being on. And until the next stream, you guys know what to do, right? You got to keep hodling those crypto. So I'll check you guys out later. Thanks. Oh, DNI. Don't want to forget that. DNI on 9 to 10, Monday through Friday. Rain on Friday at 10 p.m. So let's all remember tomorrow night is Chip XRP Minute 10 o'clock, and Auburn Rain, 10 o'clock Friday, and then I'll join you guys again on Saturday at 8 a.m. So I'll check you guys out.